This is the third part of the set of notes titled Jacksonian Democracy. In Andrew Jackson's second term in office, there will be a couple of social issues which will have profound effect on American history. The first that we're going to look at is called the spoils system. And the spoils system comes from a saying, with the victors comes the spoils of war. And what we're looking at here ultimately is an incident that involves his Secretary of War, a man by the name of John Eaton. And really, it's Eaton's wife, Peggy, which is going to cause this spoils system to sort of take place. Now, this is also nicknamed the Petticoat Affair. What transpires here is John Eaton and his wife come from Tennessee in the West, and they're going to live in Washington, D.C. Margaret Eaton, seen here, she was what we might call a barmaid back in Tennessee. And there's nothing the matter with that back in Tennessee, but on the East Coast, this would be synonymous with prostitution. Well, a lot of the East Coast women, like Flo Calhoun here, they had some doubts about wanting to hang out with her. And her husband was the vice president. And they treated Peggy Eaton rather cruelly. As a result, Andrew Jackson got rather upset and wanted these women to hang out with Peggy Eaton and treat her well. And he threatened them. If they didn't, he would remove all of their husbands from his cabinet. And ultimately, he did. And in doing so, he implemented a new cabinet, which became nicknamed the Kitchen Cabinet. And that's where we end up with the title, the Cabinet, as the executive advisors. This will lead to, of course, the spoils system, which means every president, when they come in, they remove all the previous advisors and bring in their own. The next event of immense problem for Andrew Jackson and his presidency was the Nullification Crisis in South Carolina. This goes back to the tariff issue. Andrew Jackson campaigned on the issue that he would remove this tariff of 1828. His first presidency goes by, he never does anything about it. South Carolina, namely John C. Calhoun, seen here in the middle, they're really being affected a lot negatively by this tariff. And he does something one probably shouldn't do. He threatens the president with secession. And he's using the old 10th Amendment maneuver that was used by Jefferson and Madison in the Kentucky resolutions, Kentucky and Virginia resolutions. And this is to use states' rights. This is where we get the title Nullification Crisis, because the 10th Amendment allows you to basically nullify or declare a law null and void. And in doing this, this is sort of what he's doing. Jackson, he decides to use the U.S. military to prevent this secession from happening. He does this, and he also gets the U.S. Congress to pass the Tariff of 1832, which ultimately lowered the Tariff of 1828 back to the levels of 1824. Jackson looks like a hero. Calhoun looks like a bum. The election of 1832 really is important due to the fact that we have multiple parties, but also it's a time where people are really starting to challenge Andrew Jackson. And they're challenging him because he is really using his political power, otherwise his presidential power, to do things that a lot of presidents might not do. And so everybody started to actually refer to him as King Andrew. And we will see opposition form. And the opposition that really is going to start to form is the Whig Party. And the Whigs will ultimately become what used to be these national Republicans. And so we'll see this as time unfolds. Jackson's problems don't get any better. He's going to have issues with the Bank of the United States. And it's actually, strange enough, the Republican Party, now known as the Whigs, which are really working towards trying to have the national bank around. Ultimately, Jackson will lose this battle against the bank, and it will be rechartered. Perhaps Jackson's greatest issues will come in the form of his relationship with Native Americans, from the Indian removal law, the Trail of Tears, the Black Hawk incident, all of which will be major problems for him. Henry Clay will denounce him, and things are bad.